we'll start going through the vacuum system on this car. Main things we're going to work on right now is just getting the transmission part of it hooked up and working correctly. So I think we're going to kind of use our other car as a guide. I've kind of gone through and done a video of this, so I'm not going to go crazy documenting it, but there's a lot of vacuum stuff on this that probably does not work, and leaks and all that kind of stuff that is no longer being used. You know, there's stuff all over this car unplugged and probably leaking vacuum. So we're going to go through and check all that and, you know, kind of try to make it, well, hold vacuum. I'm not going to try to hook up anything inside the car at this moment. We're not there yet. We're just trying to get everything under the hood functioning. And like I said, mainly the transmission. So that's what we're going to focus on. We'll start working our way from the transmission towards the vacuum pump. Is the way I start at the transmission. I start checking to make sure the modulator on the transmission holds vacuum. If it does, we're going to step over to the blue flying saucer here and check it, make sure it's good, make sure it holds vacuum. It's got a vacuum port right here. If it's good, then, you know, we'll continue on. We've got a lot of vacuum hoses that need to be replaced, so we'll work through those. And we'll probably eliminate the, like I said, we'll eliminate some stuff that's not being used or that's already disconnected. Just try to clean it up a little bit, make a little more sense out of what we got here. All right, it's hot, and the car's hot, and I think I'm gonna go take a drive, cool down a little bit with the windows down, maybe move it into the shade. It's gonna be close to 100 today, and my body cooling system is at working maximum capacity here. So here's what we got. If I remember right, I think this green and yellow goes to the climate control. Brown is the engine shut off. Those were both hooked up. I'm gonna leave them hooked up because engine shut off was working even with the climate control hooked up. So maybe I have a little hope that the climate control is working. Door locks were disconnected, so I'm gonna leave them disconnected for now until I guess I could vacuum check them real quick, but I'm sure they're probably gonna fail. So we replaced a few lines, not very many. These right here, these 90s, were in pretty sad shape. They were not sealing around the hose very well. So I just put just a little short piece of hose. I don't have any 90s, and it bends over okay. I mean, it's not perfect, but it'll clear the hood. And replaced one on the bottom. The other one coming from the Alda was in okay shape. I left it. The line here for the Alda was split, and so I replaced it. So definitely weren't getting fuel enrichment with boost. I have not checked the line going to the intake manifold yet to see if it is plugged or anything like that. We'll deal with that later. I'm mainly concerned with the transmission right now. And so we should have a good functioning transmission. All of this stuff was hooked up, and that's where they had this fuel filter hooked up coming off the line that along with the transmission and all that, and it was not a seal. So I'm sure this was leaking, and I'm like baffled at why this was there. I really don't know. So anyway, we're not going to hook these up. That's for all this stuff over here that no longer works, and we don't need it. I'm not going to say what it is because people seem to be. Goes over to this thing that we're not going to hook up. I know what it is. You probably know what it is. I'm not going to say what it is just because people RPM Act and all that. I don't think they'd care on a 1985, but I'm not going to take that chance. We'll hook all that stuff back up later, like it's supposed to be from the factory. So I think we're in pretty good shape. We're gonna, like I said, I'm gonna take a test drive, see how it shifts, but it held vacuum going to the transmission, so that part's good. I checked the vacuum inlet on the blue flying saucer here, and it was good. It's got a bottom side vacuum input as well that is supposed to, I think, have an orifice line, which I don't think it has. So really it's supposed to, I think, smooth the shifts when it's cold. It's that switch right there, and then I think once the engine warms up, it clicks on, and it, yeah. It's what it's supposed to do. Mine's not hooked up on my car just because I couldn't get it to work right, and this thing was leaking vacuum on mine. So we're gonna leave it hooked up on this one and see if it'll work. But yeah, we're ready for a test drive. I'm ready to cool down a little bit. And I've got stuff on my windshield, so I'm gonna fill up the washer bottle, and, well, I guess I'm not gonna use the washers. I guess we won't worry about that right now. And I don't want to really put water on my windshield, actually, since it's so hot. Don't risk making one of the chips in it crack. I don't know if y'all caught it. Caught it after I took it for a drive when I had stacked shifts. But it, I had the, when I put the valve cover back on after adjusting the valves, you know, I snapped the line going down to the transmission. You know, I forget what it's called now. Anyway, that control cable for the transmission that hooks up to the throttle. I hooked it up, the lever had flipped around backwards, and of course it had no input to the transmission, so the shifts were stacked. So I stopped and realized what was going on and popped the thing off, flipped the lever around, and hooked it all back up. So it's shifting really good now. It's probably needs a little bit of adjustment on the vacuum modulator to get it's got a little bit of a, I'm not gonna call it, it's not a flare, but it definitely could probably need a little work, and we don't know if those that temperature valve thing's working, but other than that, and if it even has the right orifice in it for that temperature valve thing, but other than that, it's doing pretty good. It's a good shift there, a little early, but that one is right where it should be, RPM wise. It shifts really nice. It shifts better than my other one, and it's nice and smooth. Just a really nice shift. And like I said, it's not flaring like it was before. It hasn't flared yet. I'll probably just leave it alone, drive it for a while, see how it does. We need to do a filter change. I do all that kind of stuff when I get a vehicle, and transmission fluid filter, and of course engine oil change, all that kind of stuff. That's just standard maintenance when I buy a vehicle. And then I look over all the belts and hoses and see how they look, and they look pretty good on here. I don't think I'm gonna really do much with the belts and hoses, at least not right off. It looks like it's got fairly new ones. There's some floor mats in here, which made the interior look much nicer. I'm still gonna stain treat everything and make everything look all nice and pretty, but right now we at least got some mats in it. Cleaned the windshield, and it got nasty junk on it from the soapy water from the gas station, but it's cleaner than it was. I still have to hook up the lines for just do a part throttle drive. It's a nice smooth shift. See a little bit right there. It had a little bit of a flare right there. And like I said, I don't think I'm gonna mess with it until I get the fluid and filter change and all that kind of stuff done with it. I want to, that's stuff I'm gonna do anyway, and it's not much of a flare, it's just barely. And if it still has an issue, we'll go through the procedures of adjusting the vacuum modulator and see if we can get the rest of it out. I was able to get it out of mine. Mine has one that's just occasional, and I actually put some, and I couldn't get it out of it, you know, adjusting the vacuum modulator, adjusting the shift cable thing, and I just couldn't get that flare out of it. You know, I think it's something in the throttle, in the valve body. Ended up putting some, I bought a kit. It's like a fix kit for these transmissions, and it's to fix the shift flares, you know, when you can't adjust them out when it's, you know, valve body worn. So I bought that kit, and then I ended up putting some transmission fix stuff in the transmission because the front seal's leaking on it, or was leaking on it. It was leaking really bad, and I put some of that transmission, I think it was Trans-X or something, and it got the flare out, and it pretty much stopped the leak. And so, I mean, I'm not a believer in that stuff, but I mean, to fix the input seal on the transmission on that thing, you got to pull the engine and the trans. So it was a Hail Mary of, let's put this stuff in it and see if it at least slows it down, because it was a fast leak, and it did. And man, I was thrilled. So we've got this thing running and driving pretty good. The looks like the pitman arm seal is what's probably leaking on the whatchamacallit, the gearbox, and the pan gasket at least is leaking on the engine. So I've got to order pan gasket, and I'll pull my pan off my parts car. It's in better shape, and we still have to check to see if we're getting boost, and if we are, what we're getting. But it seems pretty peppy. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm tired. I didn't sleep well last night, and I got up early this morning. Anyway, it's a nice drive in this thing. It really drives nice, and I can't wait till I get the SLS working, and then get the slop out of the steering. We'll check wheel bearings and you know, all that kind of stuff. See if there's anything loose. See if the slop is in the gearbox or the, you know, some worn steering component. Check ball joints, all that kind of stuff. I've not done any of that. Just doing short little drives as we, you know, get some of the minor stuff. Like I said, I wanted to do valve adjustment, oil change, and the vacuum system for the transmission all done before I did much driving. And now that that's done, we're doing a little more driving to kind of shake down test to see what other stuff needs to get fixed. Definitely gonna work on the AC soon and see if we can get that going. I checked the compressor, it doesn't feel like it's locked up, so I feel like we probably just have a leak somewhere, and then, you know, fix the leak and put some Freon in it and be good to go. So that's what I'm hoping for. So I decided to see if I can get the AC working. It's hot, I want AC. I checked, it's got 134 fittings on it, so I'm sure it's probably been converted to 134. And so we put, stacked the Schrader valve. It has some pressure on it. So I had there's about just a smidge left in that can I put in it. And then we're starting on a new can now. And we're at 18 PSI. The compressor didn't kick on, so I was trying to troubleshoot what was going on. I had power over there to the switch. And I did go ahead and swap my Clima relay, which I knew mine was good. I still got mine on it. We'll check this one after. I ended up bumping the compressor clutch, bump it in, and it energized, and and started working. So our gap on our clutch is too wide. We'll see after it, maybe after it cycles a couple times, it'll start working, but we're either gonna have to probably pull a shim out of it or replace the clutch. It's just worn. So we're up to 20. Let's see if we're starting to cool any. It's starting to blow a little cooler. Not that cool, but it's definitely cooler than ambient air. Oh, and I found something else out. Our leak I thought was oil. I think it's actually diesel. We're leaking back there. I think it's leaking around the injectors. So I'm gonna have to deal with that. I think that front one's leaking too. So we got 3 leaky injectors. Alright, I'm gonna let it continue to take Freon, and I'll bring y'all back and let you know if we end up with working AC. Well, I swapped in the original climate relay. It didn't work, so we're gonna have to rebuild this thing. But still got the one out of my other car in it. And this compressor sounds like it's self-destructing. Not sounding too healthy. And we're almost full. Been watching the sight glass over here. And still got a little air in the system. It's almost taking this full can. And it's almost full, but I think I'm going to stop it here. And we're going to leave it with semi-functioning AC because I don't like the sound of that compressor. It does not sound good. It's blowing decent. When we start going down the road, it may cool a little more, or the compressor may lock up. It's not sounding good. So I think I'm going to disconnect my gauges. Pressure-wise, we're right about where we should be. I would expect it to be about 45. We're, about 43. So we're pretty close to being spot on for the temperature out here. I did not check the hot side. It's like way underneath. I didn't hook up to it. I know it's not good practice, but unless I'm having other problems, I normally don't hook up to the hot side just to try to avoid, any Schrader valve leaks. I'm much more likely to leak on the hot side. Yeah, it's not sounding good. And it's finished this can. It's empty. You see, it still needs a little more Freon, but I really don't want to give it anymore. I'm gonna take it for a drive to see how it cools. That's gonna wrap this one up. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment down below, hit the like button, and subscribe for more.